Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning and welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Marlene Cuellar.
I am Machakilha.
And thank you for joining us this morning.
On a bleak and overcast Monday morning.
Yes, definitely look like it's going to be a rainy one, but you know, we're not forecasters, so we're going to wait for the Met Service to tell us.
There was a peep of sunlight this morning when I was getting ready for work. By the time I got here, everything is dark overhead.
Again. Yeah. I know there's some development out at sea that we need to monitor, so we're going to be looking forward to a weather report in just a few. But that's how the Monday morning is starting in terms of weather.
Yes.
But of course, there's a lot to get into for us today. Anything else happened over the weekend?
Well, we're still in graduation season, right?
Yeah.
Since I last sat with you on the couch Monday of last week, there's been some developments on my end, right? As it relates to graduation season. As we know that many of the high schools at this point are going through the commencement exercises. And so Sadie Vernon had its one on Thursday, right? And it was a proud moment for me, albeit in absentia. I wasn't able to attend the graduation, but for the past 6 years, I've been helping a young man through school, right? The last 2 years of primary school and then the 4 years of high school. And so being able to, you know, assist him getting his stuff together for graduation, kind of is like a preview of what I'm supposed to do next year when my daughter graduates, right? But I'm just saying that because I think perhaps it's the same feeling shared by many parents when they're able to, you know, help their children to you know, get their gown, get their caps, get their outfit, everything ready for that big day. Because for them, it's the completion of several years of study. And while I was once a teenager who graduated, reflecting back on what the experience is like for them, to me, is one of those things.
Oh, yeah. I think just hearing sometimes the graduation song, it kind of takes you back to the excitement that you feel at the close of a chapter and the open, like the beginning of an unknown period of your life. It's really just a unique time that I'm sure our graduates are feeling, and a bit of excitement as to what the future holds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Plus, it's summertime, so a lot of kids are going to be looking for jobs and other means of, you know, biding time over the next few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, but we got to get moving into our motivation for this morning so that we can start your Monday morning off right. And that means it's time for Eye Opener. And our Eye Opener, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. We develop grace as we learn. With the guiding hand of the universe, life will unfold exactly the way it should. The idea of trusting the universe is a popular one these days, but many of us don't know what this really means, and we often have a hard time doing it. This is partly because the story of humankind is most often presented as a story about struggle, control, and survival, instead of one of trust and collaboration with the universe. Yet in truth, we need to adhere to both ideas in this life. It is a good idea to take responsibility for the things in life that we can control or create. We work so we can feed, clothe, and shelter our loved ones and ourselves. We manifest our dreams and visions in physical form with hard work and forethought. But at a certain point, when we have done all that we can, we must let go and allow the universe to take over. This requires trust. It requires a trust that runs deeper than just expecting things to turn out the way we want them to. Sometimes they will, and sometimes they won't. We develop equanimity and grace as we learn to trust that with the guiding hand of the universe, life will unfold exactly the way it should. We are engaged in an ongoing relationship with a universe that responds to our thoughts and actions.
So the idea of trust in my mind refers to oneness with everything around us, the universe as we know it. But it stands starkly to what we've been taught about trust. There is an expression, right? Trust in God but tie your camel. Which means that you should always be able to sleep with your own eye, in a manner of speaking, right? While you're able to trust the process, you're able to trust the ones around you, you're able to trust that things will work out one way or the other, it's your input that allows you to be able to feel comfortable trusting people, right? When you don't and you expect that things will just randomly fall into place as they should, then you're kind of setting yourself up for a disappointment. And if you're looking at the idea of being one with the universe gives back what you give, right? It doesn't matter if we're talking about our relationships with people. It doesn't matter if we're talking about our symbiotic relationship with nature, for instance. It's the same thing, right? You put in what you get out, and if you're building trust, then ultimately you have to play your part in creating that setting or that trustworthiness, as it were.
Yeah, I think using the phrase trust the universe is one that should be said cautiously. And I know that there are two extremes. There are people who want to be in extreme control of things, and then they're kind of just a go with the flow type of people. And there, balance is the ideal, I keep on saying it, but you can find a place in the middle that works for you. Because the truth is, you can't control everything. And worse yet, you can't control people. But the point is that you have to put in your pound of flesh. You can't just say, okay, the destiny will take care of it, God will take care of it, the universe will guide me where I need to go. You have to do a part of the work. And that's what I loved about the eye-opener. It really kind of went in and said, at the end of the day, it's the thoughts and action that will help to guide you. And I love that it also says that sometimes you put in the work and things won't go your way.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. Is sometimes we go above and beyond, wanting to get things done our way, and life has a totally different plan in store, right? So it doesn't matter how much we put in. That's not necessarily what you're going to get out, because at that point is where you should be resigned to fate or destiny, that it's meant to be another way.
And I always see it as lessons. Sometimes the failure or things not panning out the way you want it to is the lesson that you needed at that time. Don't normally accept it in the moment, but later on you'll say, okay, I see what I learned from that one.
That's in reflection, right?
Hindsight is 2020, right?
When you're in the thick of things, the last thing you want to do is try to figure out why it's not going your way, right?
But it is, I think it is something helpful though, to kind of develop that relationship with trusting the universe, especially when you have a hard time accepting when things don't go your way. All right. And with that, we are going to get moving into our weather update for today. We have Catherine Cumberbatch on the line. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I am doing great. Have no problem, no complaints.
All right. Now, Catherine, everybody's waking up saying it was so hot yesterday, and now we wake up to rain. What is happening?
You're right, Marlene. We have a tropical wave that is presently affecting the country right now. And for the rest of today, that will give us mostly cloudy skies with some outbreaks of showers and thunderstorms affecting most areas of the country. If you look at our radar right now, especially in front of Belize, you can see there's a lot of rain coming in right now. And that will persist through for the rest of today and spread to most areas of the country. So you will be experiencing showers and thunderstorms today as the day progresses. For temperatures, because it's been raining, the temperatures will be a bit cooler than yesterday. We expect high temperatures to be 84 along the coast, 88 inland, and 80 over the mountains. And tonight the temperatures will drop to 78 along the coast, 72 inland, and 66 in the higher elevations. The winds will be coming out of the east at 10 to 20 knots. Our sea state will be moderate to rough. We have a small craft caution from last night out, and we have that remaining effect for gusty winds and local rough seas near the heavy showers and thunderstorms. Just this morning at the airport, we had gusts up to 25 knots.
Oh, wow.
So we keep that small craft caution in effect. For the outlook for Tuesday and Tuesday night, we expect cloudy intervals with a few showers and isolated thunderstorms, and we expect most of these activities to be over the southern coastal areas of the country.
All right. Now, are we going to see...
Hello?
Sorry, I was going to ask you, are we going to see the brunt of the wave today or later on tonight?
Today.
During the day.
By tonight, the activity will start to decrease by tonight and into tomorrow. So most of the activity for the wave will be today.
Okay.
If you look at our radar or the satellite picture, you see the bulk of activity coming in, no?
Okay.
Yes. And then we have a heavy shower right at the airport right now as I speak. In the tropical weather outlook, we have area of low pressure is expected to develop by the middle of this week over the southwest Caribbean. So that would be a next key area of interest that we will continue to monitor over the next couple of days. Elsewhere, we don't have any other system to develop right now in the Atlantic Basin. All that area of low pressure that is expected to develop in the southwest Caribbean Sea by the middle of the week. So we will continue to monitor that system closely for development.
That area that you call the southwest, that's lower down by Central America?
That's just off the coast of, Central America by off the coast of Nicaragua, Honduras, Nicaragua.
Okay.
Yeah, we expect something to a low area of low pressure to develop.
So we got to keep our eye on that one?
Pardon me?
We have to keep our eye on that one?
Yes, we will keep our eye on that one. As all system, especially this time of year, we just continue to closely monitor. It hasn't developed yet. It's expected to develop by the middle of the week in the southwest Caribbean. So we will continue closely monitor here at the National Weather Service.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that update.
You're welcome, Marlene. Have a good day.
You
and stay
too.
safe.
All right. Bye.
All right.
So we'll look forward to some showers today.
Yeah, rainy
as the
day
wave
ahead.
passes over.
And of course, we do want to make note of what Catherine told us in the update for this morning, which is that there is a low pressure system just south of us. And we have to keep our eye on it because, of course, it is expected or there is potential for development by midweek, right? We'll provide those updates for you as the week progresses. All right, and so now it is time for us to get moving into hearing about the stories coming out from this weekend and what we are looking forward to in the week ahead. So let's shift gears to Eye on the News.
I want to start off our conversation this morning, Marlene, with a bit of a feel-good story, right? One that my colleague Paul Lopez journeyed all the way to the remote reaches of the country, all the way to Machakilha village. Now, Machakilha holds a kind of...
So for people who don't know where Machakilha is, it's important to set like where it is, right?
That's what I'm saying. It's a very remote part of Toledo district, right? I'm saying that it holds a special place for me, having been to that community in 2019. And here is what I find interesting, Marlene. When myself and cameraman Kenroy Michael visited Machakilha in 2019, we arrived on horseback.
Yeah.
That's how distant and far-flung Machakilha is. In the years since, they've put down a stone road so that when Paul went there, he drove all the way to Machakilha, but it was still a very long journey, right? The idea here, nonetheless, is that again, at the time when I went, the community had not been electrified as yet. So a lot of what was being done at nighttime was done under candlelight, right? This time around, there was a project that has seen the electrification of Machakilha, in a manner of speaking, but albeit by renewable energy. They're using solar panels, right? And so Paul went down south on Thursday on this special assignment, where he was also able to reunite with the young man that I had interviewed when I visited in 2019. And that story that I did was in respect of the PSCs.
Yes.
And the fact that this young man, as well as several other kids in the village at that time, had to journey this extraordinary distance to be able to catch a bus and go and sit the exam.
Yeah, it was out at 4 a.m. walking on foot to the bus stop where he would take.
You're up at 3, out at 4, right? To try to reach the examination center.
To reach the bus, to reach the examination center.
Yes. And so it was a difficult journey, right? And so I'm saying there was a reunion of sorts where Paul met this young man, who is now in 3rd form, by the way, and is doing pretty good in school. So there are a lot of things that are coming out of this particular story. And I find it interesting because, I'll be honest with you, Marlene, begrudgingly, Paul went to this story because I wanted to go, right? Because I wanted to kind of reconnect with the people and that experience. So that is what we have coming up today as one of our special presentations, so to speak, the electrification of Machakilha, and a sort of an update as to where the community is with the road and things that are happening there.
You know, I remember that story with the young man who had to take this extraordinary journey to be able to take the PSC. And for me, I just kept on thinking, you know, especially, and it's a great time to talk about it because they're really trying to put PSC back into perspective. Will they continue with it, or won't they? Because when you consider a young boy waking up at that hour, getting breakfast, walking, catching the bus, going to sit the same examination as someone in an urban center who, you know, sat with mom and dad and was able to comfortably be transported to school, not tired, with enough sleep to be able to take the same test to be measured by, it really showed the disparity that existed, especially in extreme rural areas like that. So that was one thing. The second thing is that I know we've had subsequent stories about Machakilha where they talked about asking for a dirt road. So having access where they don't have to trudge through mud to be able to get to school. So the road access is definitely important. The electrification, you know, we really take things for granted. I see people, you know, catch a fit when we have 20 minutes of power outage. Albeit it's been more frequent these days, right? And there are still communities in this country that don't have access to electricity. These kids study by candlelight, or they're having makeshift ways of trying to continue with their normal life. And practically speaking, and I guess it's an investment that will have to be made at some point in time, to be able to electrify all these very remote villages would be a hefty investment. So the idea of using solar energy is really efficient because we definitely have enough sun. And that's one way to be able to kind of get them a better quality of living.
You know what is equally interesting, Marlene? The fact that we're using renewable energy sources in these indigenous communities. You would recall that there were several women.
I remember.
Right?
That.
Several Maya women who were trained and taught how to create these solar panels and go about with the electrification process, the enlightenment, as I would call it, of these respective villages. So I think all in all, it makes for a powerful story.
Looking forward to it, and a great reminder to the rest of the country, because we don't all get to venture into these villages and see what life is like. Look at them there. It looks like they got some computers or something, but you need electricity for that, right? So
Yeah.
that also changes what they'll be able to access.
You'll be amazed as much as I was when Paul was explaining to me. He said, Isani, when you went, the village was in total darkness, right? So that kind of affected the diet, that kind of affected trade and what have you. Now with solar energy, you have refrigeration that is possible.
Yeah.
You have kids being able to study later in the night under proper lighting. You have all of these things that affect the quality of life, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. All right. So
looking forward to that update.
yes.
Yeah.
So switching over now, we will discuss a little bit of politics and what's taking place in and around the country otherwise. Okay, so we know that last Thursday we reported that there was another week that was given to Deputy Mayor Micah Goodin to decide his course of action, right, in terms of his seat as Deputy Mayor of Belize City Council. In light of everything that has happened, they are expecting that he would, at the end of the day today, tender his resignation or step down from that particular post. Failing that, then a special meeting will be called to order on Wednesday, and a vote will take place as to whether or not he remains or is removed as the Deputy Mayor of Belize City. Right? So that's one of the things that we're looking to see this week. I know that we've been following it closely for the past 2.5 weeks and even longer, because the incident happened in May, around the middle of May, but the repercussions, are still ongoing, so to speak.
I know you did an interview with Mayor Wagner about the call for his resignation, and I believe the core issues were the use of the gun and also including a shadow counselor.
Yes. What happened in terms of the incident that transpired on that particular morning, because this was overnight, it's an overnight scenario. So they were leaving an establishment. According to Mr. Goodin, he stepped in to kind of diffuse tensions between two groups, right? This is, again, his version of what took place. He stepped in to kind of diffuse the tension between two groups of young men who were exchanging words. In the process of them driving off, shots were fired from his vehicle, and the other young man who they were arguing with returned fire. One of the bullets grazed the shadow counselor on the left side of the neck, right? And Councillor Goodin's vehicle was damaged by gunfire, right? So that's basically the backdrop as to what happened here. Now, there are naturally conflicting reports, right?
I was going to say, we're yet to hear an official account. I know he's posted on Facebook, and that's one way of getting the message out, but we've yet to hear him publicly respond to what exactly took place that night, and beyond that, how he feels about the petition for him to resign.
So that motion was brought forward by Councillor Albert Vaughan in the first instance. And when they had the caucus 2 weeks ago, Councillor Goodin and Councillor Novello weren't present at that point. It was on an adjournment. When they met informally last week, they virtually had the unanimous support of the Belize City Council that this is the course of action that they will take in the event that he doesn't step down voluntarily by the end of the day today.
You know, I try to gauge the public sentiment on things like this. It isn't something I know in Belize City that people are particularly following up closely, but I do think that one thing that has been discussed is that it's not just this incident. We've heard of internal issues with Councillor Gooding and other members of the council for quite some time. So I guess the speculation is this simply an opportunity to be able to kind of to get him now, because there've been disagreements and very public disagreements as well in the past.
So essentially, that interview that I did with Mayor Wagner, he was basically saying, look, this is the culmination of a series of indiscretions on the part of the counselor, and so we're forced now to take action against, you know, what has been happening all along, this being the proverbial, you know, straw that broke the camel's back, right? So that's essentially what's happening there. While we're discussing politics too, over the weekend there was a post that the area representative for Albert, Tracy Panton, has been removed from the UDP executive, right? And so that is to be confirmed. I saw that Delroy Cott-Kelvin had posted it, and as we all know at this point in time, Delroy Cott-Kelvin
is to face the ethics committee,
right? And so there are quite some interesting developments happening within the opposition as well.
Again.
So again, it's a constant thing at this point, right?
Yeah. It seems to be a never-ending cycle with the UDP at this point. I also know that the leader of the opposition spoke out against the Prime Minister's speech at the Summit of Americas last week. And it's really interesting because, you know, I think the positions that Belize has held, especially in support of Cuba, is one that has been
unwavering.
Unwavering. And, you know, the Prime Minister has been quoted in numerous international articles across the globe for getting up to the podium just a few feet away from President Biden and Vice President Harris, and essentially calling them that the acts against Cuba and Venezuela are un-American, calling for unity, and essentially making a very strong statement against the decisions that they made in who they invited and who they didn't invite to the Summit of Americas. So this has been a real highlight for him in speaking on an international stage. We also saw it at COP as well when he responded in an interview, and the question was picked up by a reporter who then posed it to Prime Minister Boris Johnson. So, you know, it's important, and I know sometimes we don't put it into perspective when Belize puts a name out there for themselves, but it would be very naive of us to say that those things also don't get recorded in history.
So quite a number of interesting developments on the local and the international front. There was a fire over the course of the weekend as well. Would you share perhaps some details of that? Okay, well, we'll accept that there was a fire and several persons were displaced as a result of this particular tragedy. You know, normally when you have these kinds of things, your livelihood, your shelter, your sense of homeliness and everything gets totally destroyed, and people need to begin from scratch, right? I'll say that in the context of this as well, Marlene, that we're very much in the fire season as well, where, you know, aside from the natural forest fire phenomenon that we deal with every year, this time of year, because of the excess heat and what have you, people should also be a bit more careful and cautious in how they go about, you know, either leaving their homes unattended or what have you, because of the likelihood of this kind of disaster. Absolutely. Right? So there was one final thing where a shooting incident over the weekend claimed the life of a young man as well, right? The individual passed away from gunshot injuries he received on Saturday. And so we'll have details of that story as well in our newscast this evening. But that pretty much rounds it out for us.
Well, one more thing. I know everyone loves to follow the pageantry in Belize, and the Miss Universe Belize delegates were announced over the weekend on social media. And so there's 7 young women who are going to be vying for this year's crown. We'll get their images up for you so you can see the lovely ladies who are hoping to be crowned the next Miss Universe Belize. And, you know, I got to tell you, Isani, people love following pageants, and they're always very critical of our girls. We hope that they are definitely more encouraging in the words that they use as these brave ladies put themselves forward to be our Miss Universe Belize. And we look forward to being able to find out more about them as the pageant comes up.
Let me say this, Marlene. What I find particularly interesting when I look at the profiles of these candidates is the fact that they all have an interesting story to tell. I'm looking at one of the profiles of one of the candidates from the Orange Walk district, if I'm not mistaken, where she was adopted by a Mennonite family and grew up in a Mennonite community. And when you look at the Mennonite way of life versus what this young lady is boldly stepping into, it's a stark contrast, right?
Yeah.
That is one observation. The other one is when I look at the academic backgrounds of these young ladies. You have a PhD candidate. You have this young lady, for instance, who works at the Belize Bank and has a strong background in math.
She studied mathematics. She has
pure
a degree
math,
in math.
right? Pure. And then you have a nurse who's pursuing a bachelor's degree in Guatemala. All of these things, I'm like, whoa, gone are the days when we're looking at these young women as simply, okay, they're just going to strut the stage and then we're going to pick them based on their beauty. No, you have people who have a certain background, have a story to tell, and have the potential and the capacity.
Yeah, definitely. So we are, it's a tough competition this year. That's what I'm going to say. So we are looking forward to that. We'll have a more detailed breakdown in our newscast tonight. But that's it for us with Eye on the News. All right, and we're going to get ready to move into our show for today. And there's a very interesting development that is going to be taking place come July 1st. Belize begins its pilot project on what is called PrEP. And this is a pre-exposure prophylactic that can help to prevent the transmission of HIV. It's a big development for us, of course. We don't talk enough about the situation of HIV and AIDS in this country, and we'll be able to have a thorough discussion as to where we are, where some of our shortfalls are, and what this particular project can do to help.
Then we have another segment which is called Full Circle Belize, and this has to do with plastics and the recycling of plastics to kind of deal with the idea of waste disposal and repurposing these things. So that's going to be our second conversation this morning. All
right, so that's what we have in store for you today. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the launch of the PrEP pilot project. So please stay tuned.
Download the SmartStream app on the Android Play Store and create your account to get access to movies and stream at home or on the go. Prepaid customers can purchase regular data packages or get a discounted rate on a special SmartStream package by dialing 7737. Postpaid customers will be billed monthly. Never miss a movie again with SmartStream.
After a rough week of school, Jake and his friends decide to treat themselves to frozen coffee. And since they don't have cash on them, they decide to use eCash. With eCash's geolocation feature, Jake can easily find the nearest coffee spot. With eCash's built-in option to split bills, Jake can pay the bill and his friends can reimburse their portion of the bill. Jake scans the merchant's code and confirms payment. Jake then views his transaction history and taps on the transaction recently made, then taps the Split the Bill button where he selects the Evenly option to evenly split the bill. The application splits the bill automatically. His friends receive and accept the request. Geolocation and splitting the bill via eCash makes Jake enjoy his digital lifestyle.
The Five Sisters Resort, located at the Gaia River Lodge, is nestled within the pristine mountain pine ridge reserve in the district of Cayo. The restaurant offers a true farm-to-table experience, using fresh ingredients from the resort's organic garden, and is open daily for breakfast, lunch and dinner. To explore the restaurant and to get a special off-the-grid experience within the resort, we offer a 30% discount on accommodation for all locals and residents for the entire month of July.
Belize is kicking off Father's Day with popping deals for dad in the month of June. Visit a Belize near you and get store-wide discounts on selected items such as Milwaukee and Axie power tools, Charbroil barbecue grills, car care products, Karcher pressure washers, and much, much more. Make dad happy with popping deals for dad in June, only at Belize. Celebrating 75 years of quality and savings.
Galenia Hospital, located in Cancun, Mexico's premier tourism destination, is a state-of-the-art healthcare facility that provides highly specialized medical services. We are Quintana Roo's biggest private hospital with board-certified doctors and staff. Some of our services include cath lab, adult intensive care unit, neonatal intensive care unit, emergency rooms, operating theaters, ambulance services, and more. We are a medically accredited hospital by JCI, Accreditation Canada International, and General Health Council, providing extraordinary care in every specialty, from our cardiology department to our neurology center. We are focused on treating the entire person, body, mind, and spirit. Contact us at medicaltourism@hospitalgalenia.com or visit our website at www.hospitalgalenia.com. Come to Galenia Hospital in Cancun for a truly personal medical care experience.
Your life just got a lot less complicated with Belize Bank contactless MasterCard debit card. Introducing our standard debit and MasterCard Platinum debit cards. Now you can make purchases anywhere MasterCard is accepted with one tap, pay and go. Your contactless card never has to leave your hands, especially in these times. And your card is embedded with multiple layers of security. Platinum card holders get to enjoy extra benefits like price protection, purchase protection, trip inconvenience, and luggage protection, just to name a few. Start enjoying a cashless lifestyle today with the Belize Bank.
And welcome back. Our first conversation this morning, as we mentioned prior to our commercial break, is a discussion with representatives from the Ministry of Health and Wellness as well as the National AIDS Commission as we discuss responding to HIV/AIDS, particularly what is known as the Pre-Exposure Prophylaxis Pilot Project in Belize. Big words, but we'll get a very clear explanation from these gentlemen we have with us. Joining us in studio this morning is the Executive Director of the National AIDS Commission, Enrique Romero. Good morning.
Good morning, Isani. Good morning, Marlene.
And the Deputy Director of Hospital Services and Allied Health, Dr. Francis Murray.
Morning.
Good morning. My first question, I guess, to be able to create a picture for people who are watching, we need to first of all know how many people are suffering with HIV/AIDS at this present moment in the country, and perhaps what is being done based on the data to be able to address any concerns coming out of new infections and the particular age range of persons affected.
Right. Thanks very much, Isani and Marlene. Thanks for the invitation. As usual, it's always a pleasure for us to be here to share as much information as best as we can with the public. Now, latest figures, 2020, we're looking at an estimated roughly about 5,000 persons estimated to be living with HIV and AIDS. Of that 5,000, roughly about 50% have been diagnosed and know their HIV status. We have about half of that 50%, another 50%, about 1,500 persons on treatment and retained in care. And then we have another 40% on viral load suppression, which is our ultimate goal. We want people to be virally suppressed so that they can no longer transmit the HIV infection. In terms of new infections, yearly we have about 200 new infections. And the age range, which is troubling, always troubling for us, it's 15 to 39, particularly 15 to 24. 15 to 29 age bracket is when you see a lot of new infections, which, like again, is troubling for us. And on an annual basis, there are about 100 persons dying from age-related deaths. So when you look at the raw numbers, 200 new infections and 100 dying, you can safely say, not necessarily for that particular year, but you can safely say that 50% of persons who are diagnosed with HIV will die as a result of age-related causes. No?
And they don't have to. I think that's the key message.
They don't have to.
Let me step back for a moment. You used a number. You said estimated 5,000, confirmed 2,500, 50%.
Right, more.
How is that estimate made if these persons have not been tested?
Yeah, we have various modalities, and through CDC or UNAIDS, there's a tool called Spectrum.
Yeah.
And that Spectrum, you put in the data that you have according to your new infections or your monthly infections and the age group. So that throws out there a figure that is what you call a potential, the potential number of cases that are in country.
Yeah.
The 2022 Spectrum, UNAIDS came back, and because of the number of deaths that were being reviewed, it fell down to approximately less than 4,000 cases. So there was a modification in the numbers. As he previously mentioned, yes, we were above in 2020, 2021, 5,400 persons were persons who you suspect are infected with HIV in the country.
Yeah.
So that figure was modified recently, over about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it does tell you that there's a gap still in testing. And so it's a figure that tells you potentially how much may be in the country using figures, that data, number of infections and stuff like that. So it's a tool that we use not from in-country but from Spectrum UNAIDS.
Now I imagine COVID had quite an impact on testing for the country, because that's the key part. If I don't know I have HIV, I may be unknowingly spreading it to others, driving up the new infection rate. What were the numbers for infections that we saw over the first 2 years of the pandemic?
Clearly, the testing numbers, for example, within 2018, 2019, we were having above 225 cases per year, new infections, or positive cases. Because I can't tell you, I can't explain or define if it's a new infection or a recent infection because of the time frame.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you would have to have other type of studies, biomedical studies that tell you, look, this is a new infection. So we're telling you about what persons who tested reactive and who tested positive. So we were, for years, we were like 225, 250, 255. With the pandemic, it fell to 130, less than 150, which mark that we had approximately 20 to 25% of the tests done on a yearly basis fell. So we had gone to 40,000 plus tests in a year at the ministry and our public facilities. and with activities done with the National AIDS Commission and other partners. In 2020 and 2021, these tests fell down to approximately 30 to 32,000 tests.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's a
significant
big,
drop.
It's a big drop. We are back up to 130. I think the last figures was 182, 192 in 2021.
Yeah.
So the numbers fell at least by 25-30%.
Where is it usually detected? I mean, how does someone usually find out they're HIV positive? Are they in a healthcare system, maybe going for a checkup? When does it normally happen?
Well, there's various scenarios that you can test. And we do a lot of testing, community outreach activities, and also within our facilities. But there is certainly what you call PITC, which is Provider-Initiated Testing and Counseling. And it's an opportunity which we still have not capitalized as an entire country response. Saying, for example, if you have a patient that comes into your emergency room, the nurse or the attending physician, one of the first tests that they need to ask for is an HIV test. And so we fail in asking that person to do an HIV test, or maybe that person tells us no, and we don't go back and try convincing that person. So you have a person at the emergency room, you have a person at the outpatient scenario, you have a patient within your maternity ward, within your pediatric ward, within your medical or surgical ward. These are all areas within a hospital setting that we should capitalize in doing an HIV test.
Because it's not mandatory, they have to agree.
That's right.
And that's the process called Provider-Initiated Testing and Counseling. I go out and I ask the question. And so that's a gap that we really need to strengthen.
What is the difference between perhaps the PITC approach versus making the testing part of standard operational procedure, so to speak, where if you're dealing with someone who comes in who is ill, perhaps displays certain symptoms, that you would, I won't say mandate, but it would be part of the overall process that you would test the individual?
Yeah. Certainly, there are certain protocols that need to be set in place, and also the revision of internal policies and laws, I would say. I mean, if you have a person that comes to your hospital setting and all signs and symptoms are indicative of this process, then you reach out. If you need to pursue a surgical process, because there were certain period of time in the country that physicians, as you rightfully had said, this is stigma and discrimination, would not operate a person without having an HIV test. And in certain countries, this is mandatory. You want me to do a surgical procedure, you need to have a HIV test. So part of that process is really strengthening that gap and asking for it, because you can always ask your patient for it. If he tells you no, then that's what you can also do, that panel. A comprehensive panel that includes within your testing scenario, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, HIV test. If you consider that person, because of the way you ask the questions, the responses that you get, the risk that you mentally qualify, that person may be at risk of spreading or having a certain disease or other virus, not necessarily HIV.
The education is key in this, and I know we were chatting about that before we got started. Just, you know, what HIV and AIDS was in the early 80s versus what it is now, it's different. It's considered, I think, a chronic condition. And I'm amused because sometimes you're watching television and you see a prescription ad come up for HIV, and it really is a great way for you to be able to see that things have changed, that you can live with HIV and suppress the virus to the point where you may get a test and it may be negative. Not that you don't have it, but it may be, it won't be detectable. And that is the goal here. So how do we try to get people to understand that there are options if you do test positive for HIV? Because we talked about that 50% on medication.
As you said, Marlene, I think, and as we mentioned earlier, one of our biggest gaps has to do with that communication. And gap in the sense that, not in the sense of people not having the knowledge, because, you know, knowledge, attitude, and practices, studies have been done in the past, and it shows that Belizeans, 95% of Belizeans know what HIV is, how you can get HIV, how it's transmitted. they know about condom usage and so forth. So it's transferring that knowledge into behavior change.
Yeah.
And that is the challenge, because we know it's no different from any chronic disease. Like you mentioned, diabetes, you know, you're told stay away from the sugars. But the first thing you do is you drink a soda, you eat, sugar things and so forth. So it's no different in HIV. The medication can help. If you take the medication as prescribed, you can live a longer, normal life. If you reach viral suppression, it's not transmissible. The famous U equals U, undetectable equals untransmissible. So we need to ensure that our communication campaign focuses on those messages of behavior change. It's moving from the knowledge base to actual behavior change now.
What's the shortfall with why, based on what you know so far, why people who test positive don't go on medication?
Well, as far as we understand, and we have a basic concept of the different barriers that exist within our country. One is the highly publicized and internally felt and community-based stigma and discrimination. Because a person who's HIV positive has internal challenges to accessing treatment. We have a treatment available in country, it's free of cost. Maybe also the structural barriers that you work from 5 to 10 in the night, and you work from 8 to 5, and after 5 you need to travel, take a bus, go further. And the only time available you have is that period from 5 to 10 in the night. And our support system is not there. Some of our clinics don't open after that. Also the financial component. You lose your job, your families throw you out of the house. You don't have any money to buy food. And so those are just a few scenarios that limit a person's access to treatment. Then the person comes to us and he's mentally not able or ready to start treatment. Because we've moved on from what we call diagnose is treat the same day. So we no longer have that ability to wait and wait and wait. But internally we offer the services. If you get diagnosed today, Monday at 10 o'clock in the morning, you can start treatment at 10:01 in the morning.
Yeah.
Once you have that ability and internal concept that you've realized that I'm infected or I've been sick for a while, I can start taking medication. And as you rightly said, you start the medications. We've also moved from these high pill burden.
Yeah.
And by high pill burden, we're saying when we started treating HIV patients in 2003, it was only 4 of us, medical officers here. Myself, Ariaga, Dr. Akin, and Dr. Osorio in the north. And we were using combinations that were like 6 to 12 pills a day. We've moved away from that and introduced single dose combinations.
Did not discourage perhaps a number of people who
Yeah, because there's a lot of side
I mean,
effects.
that's an entire regimen of tablets and what have you.
Yeah, and then the side effects, as you rightfully said. I mean,
And now it's one, just so people know.
use
Yeah.
one, 2 pills a day.
Yeah.
And so we've gone a long way. And also reflecting the numbers that you were saying previously. A few years ago, we were at viral load suppression of 13% or even lower. Recently, with the transition, because we introduced new drugs into the country, the regimen, we revised our guidelines in 2021. We started transitioning persons to the newer regimens. And so we've gone up to 760 persons virally suppressed.
Yeah.
And 1,561 on medication. So we're somewhere at the 50%. There's much more growth to go. We have almost transitioned up to 1,200 plus persons to the new drugs.
Okay.
So that's a big plus for the national HIV program. And we have viral load countrywide that can be accessed within our facilities.
And I want to touch on that, because when you look at it or you put it into perspective, Belize has the tools to be able to address the HIV situation. We have the medication for treatment available for free still.
Yes.
Okay. So you can stay on medication. There's testing available for free. And then there's what's called the viral load test. I test to see how much of the virus I have in my body, so I can know whether or not the medication is working on me or not. So we have all of these things available for free. How do we get to the point where the people who are HIV positive are diagnosed, and we start to look at reducing the number of new infections?
These are some of the the gaps that were identified during an assessment that was done in 2020, a country-focused global fund assessment that was done in collaboration with the National Health Commission and the Ministry of Health, identifying the gaps. And coming out of these gaps, we had these interventions, such as the HIV self-testing, the pre-exposure prophylaxis, the provider-initiated testing and counseling, index notification, whereby you go in, you're asked to bring your partner along with you. And under the Global Fund grant that we're starting implemented this year, we have some activities that will assist us, hopefully will assist the program in getting some of these persons to come and get tested. We have peer navigators program, peer navigators whose role is to navigate persons from the most at-risk communities to come and get it tested, not only at the Ministry of Health facilities, but at civil society organizations such as the Belize Family Life Association and Go Hoven Belize in Belmopan. So we have other layers of support to recruit some of these persons from the most vulnerable communities to assist us in navigating these persons to get tested. No? So these are some of the initiatives that we're trying to implement under the new National Strategic Plan. No?
So let's challenge some of the common stigmas here up front. The primary mode of transmission is through unprotected sex, right? And the long time assumption is that it is only homosexual males who are most likely HIV positive. Let's talk about the realities here. What's the transmissions that we're seeing, the cause of transmissions, and the vulnerable populations? How do we define those?
Well, basically what we've seen is that over the years, the various studies that we've had in country have shown that the MSM population in the country has had, I think it was 13.8 or 13.9% of incidence within that key population, followed by the transgender population, which is another group, and then the heterosexual community. We've not been able to pinpoint exactly what's the number of cases in our, we call it female sex workers or or male sex workers, if you want to call it as well, because it's quite, the definition is not what we think, and some of them, as you rightly said, freelance and don't classify themselves as a female commercial sex worker. So that by itself, what we are seeing is that the main, the higher number of infections are in the men who have sex with men, the transgender, and also the heterosexual community. And so, and Mr. Romero had alluded to the age group, which is your working population, your productive sector. And
I think, you know, just that the list that you've given, I think of all the taboos where people are saying, one, what is that? Two, it's not publicly discussed.
And Marlene, I just want to mention, it's based also on we were discussing just a while ago on the risk factors, no?
Yeah.
So persons that have multiple partners, for example, persons that are not using condom consistently and correctly, because that's another thing, you know, using condom and using it correctly and consistently is another thing. You know, when we were looking at our data a few years ago, you had about 67% of people in Belize using condom. And then you had a lower 40% of using condom correctly and consistently. Yeah. So it's based more on the risk factor, and those are two of the risk factors, you know, multiple partners, engaging in risky behaviors of not utilizing condoms. So that is what puts you in that.
And if you use that assessment for your risky behavior, imagine the population that is potentially exposed.
And we have a large number of young people, as Dr. Mori mentioned, 15 to 24, 15 to 29, young heterosexuals that, you know, studies show they have multiple partners, so that's a high risk group, no?
We've done studies. We've done studies supported by ESCLAN, and also with funds from Gilead. There was a recent study we did in Dangriga, in the heart of the capital of culture, or the culture capital, which did show that you have young persons who have teen pregnancy, having 3, 4, 5 sexual partners, not using any other form of protection, and are what we call substantially high risk. And so that, by definition, a substantial high risk person is what we intend to target with the PrEP process.
That's
right. So once you have that behavior, you know, you are having sex out there with having anal intercourse, vaginal intercourse with more than one partner, not sticking to any form of protection, that's by itself what is happening within the MSM community or other groups.
And I just wanted to mention that that is not part, but the big focus of the interventions, in that we don't want it to tailor it to a particular group, because it further stigmatizes. You're stigmatized because of HIV, and now you're further stigmatizing people because PrEP is for this particular group. HIV self-testing is only for this particular group. So the idea is that it's focused on the risky behaviors.
How do you create public awareness, perhaps via a campaign or what have you, without singling or without identifying specific groups that may be affected or at a higher risk of exposure?
We have been very active on our Facebook page in terms of trying to promote the information through support, technical assistance from the Pan-Caribbean Partnership Against HIV and AIDS, PANCAB, through their multi-country regional grant, which Belize is a beneficiary of that grant. You know, they did an assessment in the region, looked at messages, and they included these vulnerable populations in the messaging. So this information was provided to us, and we tailor it to our Belizean context. And this is the information that we're trying to put out there. And I'll just say one of the key messages that, for example, in terms of PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis, is not for everyone, but everyone should consider it. Right? So that's a key message, because it's not for everyone, but you should, based on your risk factors, sexual risk factors, you should be in a position to determine whether it's something for you.
So
and as you said, the factors that you're looking at is unprotected sex and multiple partners.
That's right. Whether the sex is vaginal or anal sex.
There's the concept of prophylaxis goes beyond, it's to prevent infection. So when we've started the programs and we've been supported and using WHO guidelines, having support from PANCAP and looking at the literature out there and the experience that we've seen, is that, for example, the PMTCT program, the elimination of mother-to-child transmission, is a type of prophylaxis. Because we started in the country way back using what we call a CD4 value of less than 500. And that was putting the mother on treatment early to prevent that child from being born positive. So that was prophylaxis. We move on eventually, listen, once you're pregnant, once you're diagnosed as positive, you stay on medications for the rest of your life, which is coming to what you call a chronic disease condition. And so that by itself move on from what was prophylaxis, preventing that baby to be from being infected, was a form of it. And we still continue that process, but keeping that person on medication. So preventing that infection is looking at your numbers. We can't shy away from what is a reality in our country and saying, yes, trying to be out there, not to discriminate, not to stigmatize, but to be inclusive of all persons who are living and infected with HIV. Because PrEP is not only for MSM in other areas. It's for MSM population, the transgender population, for the heterosexual community, or what we call as sero-discordant couples.
What
because
is that?
The male
Cheating
might be
couples.
Well, possibly.
No,
like multiple partners.
That's a scenario
couples
as well.
where people have multiple partners, which, let's be real, it happens a lot in the country.
What basically defends is also that the man it could have been to that ultimate action, but one of the persons in the relationship is positive. So it's either male or the female. So because you may find families like that the female was infected from a previous relationship. She finds a new husband, and he's not infected. But that scenario is also where you can use PrEP as well. But that comes with the additional package. And the additional package includes condom use of lubricant, use other forms of protecting yourself and protecting your family, and that's where the pill comes in. For that particular.
So let's dive into what PrEP does. This is, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I am somebody who engages in risky behavior, I don't continuously or consistently use condoms, I have multiple partners, and I take PrEP, I would be a good candidate for PrEP. What is it, a one-time use? The
very first thing in order for you to be a candidate for PrEP is, and Dr. Moore will speak about the other requirements, is that you have to be HIV negative.
Okay.
Because as Doc said, prophylaxis prevention.
Yeah.
So if you're HIV positive, you're no longer a candidate
Yeah.
for PrEP. That's why I said earlier, and I think you were going to ask the question to explain that, it's not for everyone, but everyone should consider it. So based on your risky sexual behaviors, then it's something for you to consider, but may not necessarily be for you. So if you're HIV negative, as Doug mentioned, the serodiscordant couples, you're HIV negative, but your partner may be positive and you're engaging in unprotected sex with your partner, you may be a candidate for PrEP. You may want to consider talking to your healthcare provider to do the test and so forth to determine whether you can be on PrEP, no?
So you be negative first.
You have to be
That's
negative.
The
That's
key
the very
thing.
first thing.
And
Negative.
have risky and engage in what is considered
Right,
risky
the multiple
behavior.
partners, not using condom, and having an STI. That's a sign that
And having, well, there's various criteria, and let me just go back a couple of seconds. PMTCT, PrEP, PEP, which is post-exposure prophylaxis. So you have for me, I'm a physician working in a hospital. I get prick, and the person is positive. I take medication for a month. That's another prophylaxis.
Very common with
scenario.
rape victims as well too.
So that's what you call
Right.
non-occupational prophylaxis.
Yeah.
the rape one.
That is another form of prophylaxis. Okay, so you have different concepts. Now going back to what are the criteria for or eligibility criteria for PrEP? Being more than 18 years old, having an HIV negative test, having that risky behavior, as you rightfully said, of all the different courses, being mentally prepared to use PrEP because you have this scenario. So you've had an STI, maybe 2 or 3 STIs in a year, or 1 STI, shows you high risky behavior. And also being committed to using PrEP. So there are various criteria, and we have to have there's various medical interventions that we need to do. But the basis of PrEP is to show that you're not infected, that you don't have an acute HIV infection, and keeping you uninfected. Meaning that you stay, during the course of that entire 6 months that you're in PrEP, you're always testing negative. So with the package that we need to give you, it's the tailored for this process right now that we are going through, is providing the lubricants, providing the condoms, providing all other tests. For example, we need to test you for hepatitis B once a year. We need to test for hepatitis C once a year. I need to do your kidney function twice a year. I need to do your syphilis and HIV test at least every 3 or 4 months. So you have to agree to those terms. And also the adherence counseling and the mental health consultations that you need to give you, because obviously if you come with an STI, obviously there's actions, there's activities that you're not protecting yourself, or that you're at a couple who is also high risk. So those are some of the scenarios that we need to look at. Going forward, then you have to decide who is the best candidate. The readiness, because you can say, okay, the MSM population, you have various scenarios. Do I take PrEP daily? Or do I go into what is called event-driven PrEP? Or do I go into from event-driven PrEP into, or someone who's on PEP but has all these actions, and like you said, the PEP is that person knows that he's out there, has had occasions in which the condom has ruptured or broken, has had occasional anal intercourse without protection, and that person one day missed by chance, and you have a 7 to 1 window period to treat him. But at the ending of the scenario of the month, when you talk to this person and he tells you, you know what, I have 3 or 4 sexual partners, I'm not using condoms, I'm not protecting myself out there, I go to bars every weekend and I just drink and I party and I may have sexual intercourse without protection, then that person who went from a PEP scenario can fall into a PrEP scenario. But we have to do it on a case-by-case scenario.
So based on your behaviors.
That's
Yes.
right.
So if I get exposed, that's one category, but if I probably knowingly will continue to expose myself,
That's right.
then I then qualify for PrEP.
Then we make a decision on we both make a decision on what's the best scenario for you.
And just to mention what I mentioned earlier, that pre-exposure prophylaxis is part of a comprehensive combination initiative, prevention initiative, in that in itself reduces HIV infections by 90%, 95%. However, it only protects you against HIV. So pregnancy and STIs, it's recommended that you continue using your condom along with the pre-exposure prophylaxis. So you get double protection, triple protection.
This is a pilot project, as we've identified at the very beginning of the discussion. But I'm thinking about what the reception for this would be, based on the fact that you're essentially requiring of me or requesting of me to share with you certain information that I may not necessarily be comfortable sharing with you. Funny, because perhaps as men, if we're having drinks, I could tell you the amount of partners that I have, and it's an open conversation in that particular setting. But to go before a doctor and say, well, look, you know what? This is my lifestyle. These are the decisions that I'm making, may not necessarily sit well with me divulging that.
And also, that comes with the monitoring of the process, because I have to ask you for your information, and I have to put it into our system, the Belize Health Information System, and with all its securities. So what we're asking is for those who qualify for it, be ready to be frank with us. I mean, we have to build a relationship. And I'll be honest, I don't know what the uptake will be. We can have 5 persons within the next 6 months, or we can have 10 persons or 100 persons. So the message is out there. I mean, we could have had put in $100,000 into a communication strategy that makes a bang, and we have these persons accessing our services. And which is a modality for us to decrease the infections in the community within this particular high-risk group. But the studies have also shown that this particular high-risk group, as we spoke, I think last time we were in February, March, January and February when we were here, is that the MSM community and the LGBT community are already having other relationships. So it goes beyond what we think.
And that's why I keep on, I think it's important we continuously reinforce the point that when you say MSM, you're not talking homosexuals.
That's right.
You're not talking people who may identify as gay. They engage in, there are men who have sex with men and may have a wife as well, or a girlfriend.
That's why we were focusing not more on the individual or the groups, but more on the risky behaviors. You know? The unprotected sex, multiple partners. That could be men with men. That could be men with women, heterosexual. So it's more on the risky behavior rather than on the.
Our guidelines also reflect what you're talking about, because we are cognizant that we have the MSM one is open there. We also have the person who doesn't classify himself as an MSM or what we refer to as a closeted, and that person can also access the services. The prep can be tailored to that person, because that person, as you rightfully said, he's out there drinking every weekend, goes home and does his thing wherever he wants to, but needs that added protection, because this scenario of having a condom burst or not using condoms, and his partner or partners may not know their status, or he doesn't know. So that person by itself comes into what you would call PEP services. But your willingness, your concept that you are putting yourself at risk out there because you're going home to a wife is what you may need to be conscious of and say, listen, talk to us. I'm sure that the services will be given, and we're not pushing anybody back, because right now we do have couples in Belize who are serodiscordant couples that are using medications. We also have persons from the MSM population who are getting medication from the U.S. and from families outside the U.S. So we're cognizant that it's already in the country, and maybe it has been there for a couple months. So
people are already using it. Yes. How does it work though?
So what it does is it's the PrEP. It boosts up your immune system, so that if there's any process of infecting, the immune system is up, your affects up, so that the virus doesn't multiply or doesn't infect you as much as possible. But it doesn't function on its own. It comes with the package. You have to use the additional condoms, they're decreasing that risky behavior.
Okay.
So.
And the pilot project you're saying is for 6 months. Is this basically, explain to us why such a short time?
we're actually behind time.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been trying to do various modalities in the concept. In the country, we started with self-testing, piloting self-testing, which falls into this concept. An MSM person can access self-testing, and if that person is reactive or has a positive test, he can further access us for us to do further testing. We're trying to align many things at the same time.
Yeah. So self-testing means you swab yourself.
You swab yourself,
Yeah.
you test yourself, and it's a form of protecting yourself and knowing that whatever mechanisms, whatever process you're using, you're actually staying safe.
Yeah.
And which you can also give your partner, say, listen,
That's right.
Yeah.
you're out there, I am sure you have more than one partner, you can
Yeah.
do your self-testing.
Yeah.
So it's various modalities that we are trying to implement at the same time. And like I said, the guidelines, we started with the guidelines in 2019 from my desk, and it's obviously been 2020, 2021, a bit much more work.
Yeah.
And so we have, it's finalized, which we're going to printing, but we've done training. We've sensitized our physicians and healthcare and nurses. As of 2019, we started the sensitization because this was in the pipeline already.
Yeah.
So it's not something that we decided on
That's right.
January 1st, 2022, we're going to do this. No,
Yeah.
it's been there already on the ground.
Yeah. But you're calling it a pilot. Is this basically to see, I'm imagining it's a hefty investment, the purchasing of the medication. Are we going to monitor the uptake, whether people will voluntarily decide to take PrEP and see how that goes from there? Is that what we're doing?
Well, that is the plan in terms of, and just to mention, Doug mentioned we're behind. Like I said, as part of the multi-country regional grant that we're a beneficiary of, Belize, along with other countries I mentioned, Suriname, Antigua, and Barbuda, we're also in the piloting phase of pre-exposure prophylaxis. In February, we had training that was done with through PAHO with our healthcare practitioners and civil society on the whole PrEP, looking at the forms, screening, and so forth. So that is the idea for us to pilot this for the next 6 months and look at the uptake. We have to monitor the intervention to determine what is the uptake. Currently, the pilot will be Matron Roberts Polyclinic in Belize City, Belize Family Life Association in Belize City, but we are looking also at BFLA clinics in Orange Walk and Dangriga. And again, even though you mentioned this for a short period, there's nothing that can prohibit us from after the 6 months to maybe extend that pilot, maybe look at piloting maybe in other areas before we actually go into the full rolling out or phased rollout of PrEP in the country.
What's your target?
But
How many people would you like to
we
get
are
on PrEP?
prepared as a Ministry of Health to continue. This is just because of the PAHO scenario, the PANCAP scenario, this 6 months period. But preparation from our desk is there for us to continue beyond. So monitoring the numbers, as you rightfully said, getting those, for example, in Belize City, we may have a larger access, and I'm hoping that we do. San Pedro, where they have the higher risk groups in Orange Walk, because I'm not, and Placencia, we have these touristic scenarios, because I'm not sure in PG it's the same concept, or in Corozal, but we are prepared to go beyond 2022 in offering the services. Sorry.
So this daily regimen, it's taken for how long?
Well, there's two scenarios, and there's, for example, the PrEP per se, which is daily, and we're you come in, we do your HIV test, you do your syphilis test, you do your hepatitis B test, your hepatitis C test, the vaccine. If you don't have, we're also, the Ministry of Health is also prepared or has passed on the words to the BFLA and to the CO hub where there's persons will be asking serve to give you the hepatitis B vaccine as well. We're going. It's for 28 days, and you can stay 3 months, 6 months on it, all depending on your
risky behavior.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's one form. The other form is the person who says, listen, I don't have much sexual encounters with my partner, and I do it once a week or twice a week, and it's only on weekends. So that person can take what you call event-driven PrEP. So that person takes 2 Friday morning because he knows he's planning and that he has an appointment at 3 o'clock in the evening. And then the Saturday takes another one, and Sunday takes another one, and that's it. And he goes back and sees his partner maybe 3 months down the road.
Okay.
So that's another modality. But that person who's on the 28-day prep can also fall, stop. There's a certain period of time, let's say up to 7 days, that you can take the medication and then just stop, and goes back to the concept. Substantial risk and risky behavior, you start back on it again.
And the effectiveness of the PrEP, it's 92%, is that what I read?
Over 90% effective in reducing the HIV infection. And if used in combination with the other prevention methods such as condom, takes it to about 98, 99%. But I just want to mention on one thing that Dr. Moore said, and we have to be careful with our messaging, the event-driven, as the name indicates, for a particular event. So we don't want to have people feel that, okay, this is a substitute for not using a condom. So I'm going to, I have my thing set up for tonight, so I'll take my PrEP and I'll just do my thing without the condom. That is not the idea. Yeah, so we have to be careful with the messaging, that it's in combination with other preventative measures. And in the response, like I said, there are several things that we're putting in place to assist us in getting this done. We have the adherent counselors, we have the peer navigators, social workers, index partnering, which Dr. Moore mentioned. You go in for services and the doctor, nurse would ask you, well, can you bring your partner along to do an HIV test as well? That's part of capturing and recruiting persons to do an HIV test. That's the only way we can get it done.
All right, so if somebody's watching and thinking, I may be a candidate or I'm interested, where do they go, or who do they call? Do they have to come to one of the clinics you mentioned?
That's right. Matron Roberts Polyclinic, Belize Family Life Association. I think we have been distributing some flyers. It's on our Facebook page. And numbers there to call, and we go from there.
All right. And in the meantime, I know you have Regional Testing Day coming up, so people can get tested again.
Right. That is June 24th in collaboration with the Ministry of Health. We are doing that countrywide, Belize, PG, San Pedro as well. So come out, get tested. You also get the opportunity to win a few nice prizes, get some tokens and so forth. No?
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for coming in. Anything else you'd like to say before we close?
From me, just to thank you all once again for the invitation. Like I said, we have a new strategic plan, a new grant. There are new activities, innovative activities that are part of all addressing the issues of getting people tested, people on treatment, viral load suppression. So all our work is focused on that continuum of care cascade.
And if you fall in this category, feel free to contact us. I mean, I'm sure that we have to continue building partnerships, building a better rapport with our population, with our clients, with our patients. And the only way we can have an impact and have this, whatever pilot project you consider, for me it's not a pilot project. I would have wanted this to start a few years ago and continue.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the services will be there going forward.
That's right.
All right.
All right, well, thank you guys for having joined us this morning. And we look forward to hearing what comes out of the pilot project down the road.
Sure.
All right, so we're going to take a commercial break, and when we return, we're going to talk about Full Circle, the recycling of plastics. Stay tuned.
Technology is ubiquitous, and it's transforming how, when, and where we work. Fulltech Systems is placing award-winning devices in the hands of information workers, allowing them to work without compromise in a world without wires, to innovate, create, and to maximize productivity anytime, anywhere, satisfying the needs of the desk-centric remote and field worker and every other worker in between. We are providing the industry's best devices to businesses going through the process of digital transformation. Partner with us today to provide the solutions that will allow your employees to work effectively and efficiently to enhance your customers' experience. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
Download the SmartStream app on the Android Play Store and create your account to get access to movies and stream at home or on the go. Prepaid customers can purchase regular data packages or get a discounted rate on a special SmartStream package by dialing 7737. Postpaid customers will be billed monthly. Never miss a movie again with SmartStream.
There are 3 categories to choose from: budget, economy, island lux. Try our services today and earn loyalty points on each ride to get cashback deals on your next ride, or sign up to be a Machakilha driver. Just be sure to have your police record on hand. Transportation services at your fingertips. Download the app today. Machakilha, opening doors to new opportunities.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Marian Ali, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 Belize teams do whatever it takes. Go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 Belize on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Because news is now everywhere, all the time. And so are we.
Whether you're at home, on the road, at work, or at school, if you see news happening or suspect that something might be up, call or text the Channel 5 News Belize tip line at 672-5555. You don't have to give us your name, just give us the tip. That's 672-5555. Call or text us so we can check it out.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
And we're back.
We are back, and we have with us this morning the project technician for Full Circle Belize is Daniel Gregorio. Good morning, Daniel. And we also have the project activist, Max Ram. Good morning. Let's begin first of all by explaining what Full Circle Belize is and what is its purpose in the grand scheme of recycling.
Well, we see plastic pollution and just improper disposal as a huge issue here in Belize, and also opportunities for youth are rather low. So by doing this initiative, we plan on tackling both of those issues. We'll be collecting the plastics and shredding them and then putting them through a machine called an extruder, which then warms them up, and we can put them into just about any mold we can create. So whatever shape we want to make with these plastics we can do, meanwhile also giving some youth training and raising awareness of the damages that improper pollution causes.
So let's look at this scenario. Single-use plastics and styrofoams has been a thing, right? We're trying to get rid of, these kinds of plastics where, it's widely considered a pollutant. So you look at garbage collection. You separate what can be used for this particular process. Can we then say that, okay, perhaps we could use them to make chairs, plastic chairs, we could do other, like buckets or whatever else with them?
Buckets, planting pots, kitchen utensils. I mean, what you can make with it, the possibilities are kind of endless. And it is, at this point, only certain types of plastic that we can use, but as this project progresses, we're going to be getting different machinery where we can use even styrofoam, PVC, all of that stuff as well.
Let's step back for a moment. This is a youth-led initiative. Where did the idea come from? Daniel, tell me.
Well, Humana People to People is an NGO organization here in Belize that do project proposals. And this is where the recycling plastic and full circle came up, the idea came up, because they saw the importance of collecting all this plastic and using it into, and turning it into something useful rather than just dumping them or burning them, which is something that is practiced here in Belize a lot.
Yeah. And was it a matter of you kind of looking at the garbage and saying, okay, there's got to be something better we could do with this?
Yeah, that's also part of the reason we targeted Belmopan and the surrounding areas. There have been a lot of new bus stops put in, all with their own plastic drums and everything, but they're constantly overflowing. And it's an area where we see a lot of waste being burnt or improperly, like just tossed around on the ground or into the waterways even. So it seemed like a perfect area to start, and then it seemed like it has a high population. So there's a lot of youth there that could be employed and trained to use these machinery as well.
So
we're targeting youth 18 to 35 as well. When I say youth, it's kind of a broad term.
How did you, okay, so you put together a proposal, you presented it to Humana People to People, and it was accepted. Did they provide the funding then for you to be able to access the machinery, to be able to access the training and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, they have. We actually have several donors, among them the GEF Small Grant Program, the Swiss Embassy of Belize, the Paddy Foundation, and then several other smaller donors as well, who all have their expectations of the project and kind of want to see it come to light and have it be an expanding thing too. Like we would love to have it countrywide eventually. Be collecting as much as possible, and right now we have one set of machines. We do hope to get more in the future so we can expand.
So explain to us the phases of the project. You're waiting, it's collecting the plastic first.
Yes.
Go ahead.
It's four parts are included in it. So it's collection, transformation, raising advocacy and awareness, and then our youth training aspect. So right now we're in the collection and awareness raising parts of it. We did just get our machinery, so starting in about August or early September, our production and transformation is beginning. Right now we're just trying to get our collection bins set up across all of these communities and figure out the right timeline to collect them in and all of these little details.
So the plastics that we're going to be collecting are through community outreach. So we're targeting 8 communities in the Kaya district, which include Belmopan, Armenia, Cotton Tree, Tikato, Kamalote, and Georgeville.
Roaring Creek, Ontario, and Unitedville as well.
Yeah, so and the plan of collecting this plastic is to have 2 collection systems per each community. So I'm not sure if you guys can see through the PowerPoint that we shared to you. There we were at the Agriculture and Trade show where we had our first collection bin.
Our prototype, which is kind of pretty close to what
that's what I was looking at, that box. Okay,
Yes,
so
a metal
how do I
box.
know what type of plastic is supposed to go in there?
That one wasn't quite completed yet. It was just our prototype for design and size and all. We will have a big metal banner on it listing the types, giving photos for even children, so like if they can't read good, maybe they can still see, okay, this stuff goes in here. As well as maybe providing some pictures up there of the products that it can create.
So how did it go at the Agric show?
Very well.
Yeah?
Nothing but positive feedback, we're proud to say.
Yeah. And people actively sought out the disposal bin there?
Yeah, everyone passing that kind of saw it and got the idea was very happy to toss in their bottles or whatever else they had, plastic water pouches, all that kind of stuff.
Do you guys have like an economic plan in place? Because if you're looking at repurposing and creating something new, then I would assume that that goes back onto the market for sale, right? Whatever it is that you're putting together. Have you guys thought that far ahead, or?
Yeah, we have 18 months of donorship, after which point it's supposed to be a sustainable project. So all of the money is supposed to keep it going, as well as any surplus income will go to other projects that Humana is implementing that maybe don't bring in their own funding. such as we have a migrant hub for people coming across the borders. We have a seeds program that gets government and NGO services to rural areas, sorry. And different stuff like that all of the funds go back into.
Yeah.
How do we educate people? I mean, the separate bin for plastics is going to be new for some people. You know, we're kind of used to a one trash concept. You just put everything in one, hopefully in a bin to start there. So how do you plan to get people to start to separate their garbage so that you can have proper collection?
That is going to be done through community outreach.
Okay.
We're currently working on sensitization meetings with local leaders and business owners. So this is where we introduce our project to them. We talk, explain our aim, our targets, and through that we also, you know, because we ask them where for our strategic location to place our bins, since they are the local leaders.
Yeah. And so what are some of the answers that you're getting? What's the response you're getting since you're going out to the community?
Schools.
Yeah.
Schools really need it, and also just local stores. I mean, people go and get their plastics there. There's no reason you can't bring the plastics right back there to get rid of them.
Yeah.
And then also just different communities vary. I mean, some of them have a lot of sporting events in the area, such as Camalote. We were thinking maybe at the community center due to that. And just kind of working by community, figuring out what works best where.
So what type of plastics can you collect?
Type 1, 2, and 5 right now. So
what
are
like
those?
I have no idea what that is. Yeah.
Type 1 would be like your regular drinking bottles, soft drink bottles, all those kind of clear plastics that stuff comes in. Type 2 would be the more opaque, higher density ones, such as like detergent bottles and different car stuff, like motor oil bottles, coolant and that kind of stuff, shampoo.
Oh,
a lot of different things like that. And type 5 would be like your COVID masks, bottle covers, those disposable like cutlery that you get with your takeout food. A lot of the little higher density stuff as well. And then, as I mentioned, as the project progresses, we do expect to be getting some machinery from Cuba, which would then allow us to use all types.
How did you even find out about this machinery? That it existed and that you could do this?
It's an ongoing thing. Our parent company is Precious Plastic, who we got the machinery from, and they're getting worldwide at this point. I think they're operating in 40-something countries now, and we heard about it, and our grant writers kind of got in contact with them and figured out the best way to get the machine shipped here from Spain.
Is it perhaps your belief initially that targeting young people to be a part of this would perhaps be the most effective way? Because if you look at the child or infant population and you look at the teenagers and you look at the young adults, right? We perhaps are the ones that consume the most in terms of not only single-use plastics, but any other forms of plastics, correct?
Yes, definitely. We are the highest users, and it's, I believe, the easiest to make a change amongst the young people as well, because it is some cultural change taking place. People are just kind of used to it being convenient to just burn your plastic in the backyard or whatever. So if we can educate the children and teach them about how harmful that is to our health and the health of the environment, then maybe it trickles down to the parents as well. They tell them about it and try and big up, okay, well, you can go and put it into this collection bin here instead. Would be the idea.
Is there...
Children are easily molded, I believe, so that them our target group.
And the youths, I think youths across the globe are becoming more environmentally conscious than probably we were when we were growing up. But I wanted, there is a system in place where some people do collect bottles for money. What are you going to compensate? Is there a part of a plan, or you're hoping that people will choose to recycle versus?
At this point, it's going to be strictly by a voluntary basis. But as the project progresses, we do realize that a small stipend would be a good incentive to get people bringing in stuff more. So for plastics that are cleaned and sorted, we may be able to give a small fee, probably by weight or something to that effect.
Okay, that would be helpful.
Because we intend to make this project self-sustainable. So once we start our production, we're going to be registering the project so that we can be able to sell whatever designs we make.
Yeah, and also looking for different partners that do have products that they themselves would need, or some like specific stuff. So we may have our own storefront. We may just be trying to work with different partners and sell our products through them.
Okay, so let's talk about that step. You got one machine so far. You said you have another one that's coming. What can you do? You collect the plastic, you put it into the machine, and then what can you make from it?
Yeah, so the process is to first collect our plastic. We're going to be sorting them by numbers. At the end of the bottle on the bottom, there is a number, so we're going to sort it by that number. Then we are going to be cleaning our plastics. Once we clean and sort our plastic, we're going to be melting them and pouring them into molds. This depends on which mold we decide. Yeah, after shredding.
So you have to shred it, then melt
Yes,
it.
we have a shredder and an extrusion machine, which is
Then once we pour it into our molds, would be one of the pictures that we have in the PowerPoint are flower pots. We have baby cribs and some chairs that you can make also.
Yeah, we have a company from up in Cayo, I believe they're based, who is designing parks in Cayo and Orange Walk. So, and they're very into different sustainable building methods and sustainable approaches to this. So maybe some benches in these parks that say like, okay, this bench was made out of recycled Belizean plastic.
Yeah.
And different little things like that to kind of promote awareness as well. As well as maybe stuff for the schools.
You'll be creating these products, or you'll be selling the raw material?
No, we'll be creating the products.
Them.
Whatever, we'll be working with local workshops and welders and stuff who can make the different molds for us. And you can also shape it by hand, but molds are always a bit more precise.
Constant as well.
Yeah, exactly. So then different stuff like flower pots, buckets, as you guys mentioned, chairs, furniture, kitchen utensils.
You can't go wrong with that.
Anything that you can make a shape for, basically. Even plastic fence posts and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. So you need local welders to help you with the mold.
Yes, definitely.
To be creative and come up with something.
We're currently looking at shipyard because we know that they work a lot on metal.
Yeah. This is that's really interesting. Have you talked with the communities to see what type of product they would need? Like park benches is a great idea, but what else?
So since you mentioned park benches, so imagine this scenario. Instead of cutting down the tree and using it to build furniture or any other thing
which is quite temporary. Wood rots, plastic does not.
So, and then you have no shade afterwards. So instead of doing that, you collect our plastics. Instead of just dumping it and around the trees on the riversides, we collect our plastic and we build a park bench, and then we just place it there. You will have the shade. You still have the tree there, and you have shade instead of cutting down the tree.
Yeah. And it's such a marketable product. I mean, there are even shoes now made out of recyclable plastics. And people buy them because of what they're made from.
Yeah, because they support a good initiative as well.
Yeah, that they know they're doing their part in removing some of the waste. Okay, so at what point do you move into the phase of creating the products?
Late August, early September. By then our collection system is supposed to be in full swing. We currently have an electrician working at our workshop to get all our wiring proper for these machines, because they do take a good bit of energy. And yeah, we'll be doing some prototype products pretty soon here, definitely before that timeline, but we expect to be having stuff that we can sell by August.
How many people are involved in your project? I see quite a few at your in your photos.
Currently, only 2 of us.
Yeah, currently it's 2 of us running the project. We do have a senior project coordinator. Some of those people are different employees of Humana that are we're just helping out on this project, or just other people from outside doing volunteer work as well.
The guys that you see there in the picture are from Bella Vista and Santa Cruz. That's where they started with just some collection stations. So they just collect plastic. Our main station is going to be in Belmont Pond next to Reimer's Feed Mill on the Forest Drive.
And you have plastic drop-off points. So if I want to collect here in Belize and take it to you, that works too?
Yes, definitely.
Fine.
We're very open to that. And if it were a good amount being collected, we would be able to probably make the trip up here to pick stuff up as well.
Okay.
And we're hoping to get expanded beyond just the Belmopan area very soon.
Yeah.
So then by the end of our donorship period, we're supposed to be covering a lot more area as well as have a few more people employed too.
Yeah, by then it should be a self-sustainable project.
I would imagine though, and this is just me thinking here, when you melt plastic, it shrinks, right?
Slightly.
So that you're perhaps going to need a lot of plastic to be able to make certain things out of, right? So
there's no shortage.
There are
High
tons
volume.
of plastic in communities.
And then it doesn't, since we're going through the shredding process, it doesn't melt quite as much as if it were just like bottles themselves. It's all already pre-shredded, which makes it a good bit more dense.
Okay.
But then as you melt it, it does lose a little bit of its weight, and it's also, we're going to have to be masked up and all that, because even putting it under a slight amount of heat does release some of the toxins.
Yeah.
And stuff.
And that's what you were clarifying for me before when I said melted. You said there's a process that's not exactly like burning what we imagine.
Yeah, it just turns it kind of into a consistency of, say, hot candle wax.
Okay.
At which point you just can,
So
like
it
I said,
softens
hand
the
mold
plastic.
it. Yes.
Malleable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then you add your colors, your pigments to
Well, it's actually, we work with the colors that we have. So, and you can do some really interesting mixes of colors that give you some very marble-like products at the end of the day.
I saw that with the stool. So if you don't color, are you're separating by color too?
Yeah, we're separating by color. We'll have different bins of different shredded colors. At which point we mix them together how
so
we
your
please.
yellows are already yellow, your
Yeah.
blues are already blue.
So when it comes
etc.
to melting the plastic and you want your model to look marble-like, that's where you're going to be doing your mixing the plastic, pouring different amounts of colors of the same number though.
There's also an interesting method that you don't shred it first and you kind of keep the plastics together, and that when you make it shows the different shapes of like what goes into it. Like you can tell individual bottle caps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which just makes it carries across the point that okay, this was made
Yeah,
with
I think that's what you should do with your park
plastic.
benches, just like bottle caps all over. Then people will remember.
Right. Make it very clear that okay, this is all stuff that was trash that has then been repurposed.
This would at the same time, like you mentioned, the bio cups. At the same time, it would motivate them to help us collect more plastic.
Yeah.
It helps spread the message.
Yeah.
All right. But that's a lot of work though. That sorting portion at
Yes, I expect
minimum.
we're going to have a lot of sorting and a lot of different nasty stuff that we have to pull out at the start.
So it's just the two
But
of you that are
hopefully-
going to do it?
For beginners, yes. We do plan on expanding and employing more very soon,
Yeah.
but as we get started, it is just the two of us.
Yeah.
Are you there are people who may be willing to volunteer to
Yes,
help.
definitely. We're very open to that, as well as like for the high schools and stuff. They have to do work experience and community service and different things like that. We're very open
Yeah,
to
that's
that.
one of our
We want to
targets.
teach people how to use these machines too,
Yeah.
because we do see it as a growing industry. Like I know that Tobacco Key has gotten their own plastic shredder for out there, and Caribbean International Brewery has their whole setup as well already.
Yeah.
So it's a growing industry, and the more youth we can train to use these machines and about the harms of plastic, I think it can become a Belizean thing. I mean, at this point we are collecting a lot of plastics and just shipping them to different countries around us to do the same stuff with. So,
So
we
it's
can get it
being
going at home even better.
All right. And so how do people get in touch with you if they want to volunteer, if they have a lot of plastic that they want to give to you, or just get involved in any way?
We have a work phone and we have an email that people can reach out to us on.
You can also find us on Facebook. That's Full Circle Belize. We also have the Instagram, but it's not quite active at the moment.
Yeah.
And our phone number is 675-6465.
All right.
And we're very open to all types of collaboration, from people that are willing to tell us ideas of their products that they'd like to see, people doing recycling drives that are just picking up all these plastics and doing beach cleanups and so, but don't really have anything to do with them.
Yeah.
Even the Department of Environment, Solid Waste Management, groups like this, we're very open to working with.
And there may be somebody out there who needs something made in plastic that
Yes.
would be a fitting partner.
Definitely.
So, well, wonderful initiative, and we do wish you the best of luck with it,
Thank you
so
very much.
people can be able to do their part in transforming the plastic waste that we use.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you guys, and it will hopefully be reaching to Belize City pretty soon here as well, because this is another very good target area.
Well, we look forward to seeing those prototypes.
Yes.
Yeah,
definitely.
to see what you come up with.
Right?
Well, we want to expand countrywide eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in and telling us about the project.
All right. Thank you guys as well.
Thank you guys for having us.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll be back in a few. Stay tuned.
It's Super Handy Dad's month again at Brothers Habit and Habit, and that means super deals and super gifts for that super special dad. And we're bringing the power to all Super Handy Dads all month with 15% off all power tools and accessories from Stanley, Black & Decker, DeWalt, Skill and Bosch, and 15% off our entire brand new line of truck automotive batteries. Super powerful! Plus super clearance deals on Westinghouse lights, select paint colors, and much more. So come in today to Habit and Brothers Habit this Super Handy Dad's month and pick up these super deals at Super Savings.
That benefit are we the people supposed to pay?
That something you pay now for when you get old, you got something for collect for your future.
If you make some days from work, they should have compensated for that.
As an artist, I'm not really sure because I work for myself.
What is Social Security? Social Security is not a tax. Social Security is a very small investment in you, the worker. It's an investment that you can count on now or in the future. It is designed to replace part of your income from wages when you get sick, get injured on the job, have a baby on the way, become disabled, or even when you pass away. And even then, the widow and your kids, if under 16 years or under 21 years and in school, obtain survivor's pension. And after a lifetime of working, you can rest assured you will have a monthly retirement income. Social Security, safeguarding you, your family, your future.
Hola usuario de eCash, la aplicación eCash está disponible en español. Cambiar el idioma de tu aplicación de eCash de inglés a español es rápido y sencillo. Déjame mostrarte cómo se hace. Primero, abre tu aplicación eCash. Introduce tu PIN. Toca el icono More en la parte inferior de tu pantalla. Selecciona Security. Selecciona Language. Y luego selecciona Spanish. Vuelve a introducir tu PIN y ya está. Tu aplicación de eCash está ahora en español y puedes seguir disfrutando de tu cartera digital eCash. La aplicación eCash de Belize Bank te hace la vida más fácil.
Messi. Off goal, what a goal from Leo Messi. What an incredible strike from Leo Messi. Neymar and Messi is standing over this. Messi. Off goal, what a goal from Leo
Great entertainment stays with you, and we bring you great entertainment. Next Gen, the ultimate digital experience.
Download the SmartStream app on the Android Play Store and create your account to get access to movies and stream at home or on the go. Prepaid customers can purchase regular data packages or get a discounted rate on a special SmartStream package by dialing 7737. postpaid customers will be billed monthly. Never miss a movie again with SmartStream.
All right, and we're back.
We're back. That second segment, though, I'm still pretty
Yeah.
much. It's impressive that we're actually moving in this direction and we're having young people at the helm of it. I think that, to me, is what stands out most, right? When you look at the volume of plastic litter that is generated daily, weekly, etc., and the fact that there really isn't much that we've been doing to address this issue, to have a pair of young men at this point who would be leading the charge to recycle and repurpose, I think it's a good thing. If we could get more young people as time goes by to invest in this kind of an initiative, their time, their talent, and what have you, then it's a meaningful way of beginning to address the plastic problem.
Yeah, and even the bigger picture than that, you know, I keep on saying I have faith in the younger generation in this country. I do hope that they stay strong in their convictions. And, you know, it's seeing a problem, it's identifying a solution and finding a way of reaching that solution.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we see a lot of things in our country that we don't like. We may be creative enough to come up with new ideas or replicating ideas, because you don't always have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
And that's it. Well, you could sit back and say, well, the machine not in Belize, the machine too expensive, but they applied for a grant. They got their project started. They're starting off as a two-man team to be able to move from, to transform all this plastic waste, not even in their direct community, because they're from Bella Vista, but from the Cayo area, because that's where they see the problem the biggest. So really great initiative there. We do encourage you to get in touch. And of course, they do welcome volunteers as well. You just have to look up Full Circle Belize.
And then our previous segment, which was the first topic of the day, with the PrEP, right? The pre-exposure prophylaxis, right? Again, it's for people who live a certain lifestyle, and at this point we're trying to get them to be more cautious and aware of HIV/AIDS, right? And the fact that each individual is responsible for themselves in that particular regard, their practices and what have you. So to have the National AIDS Commission and the Ministry of Health and Wellness come and talk about that pilot project, I would encourage more people to be a part of it as well, particularly if you're living that kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, and you know, I think 100 deaths a year is too many. Because when you consider the fact that there is medication to treat HIV, and that medication can in fact keep the virus from affecting your health, and can keep you from passing it on to others, then it is completely preventable. But the steps that have to be taken, one, you need to know your status. Two, if you are positive, you have to get on medication. And then, of course, you keep up the medication and you get tested regularly to see how you're doing. And if you test negative, and you can change your behaviors, one, but two, if you know that you're going to continuously be in risky behavior, then you can consider things like PrEP.
I think the responsibility lies on people who live a certain kind of lifestyle, who engage in certain behaviors to be able to take care of themselves and their partners.
Well, I mean, I gotta be honest. I'll say this much. Let's not pretend. If you use the category of people who have multiple sexual partners and don't use condoms consistently, it's a very large part of the population, right? There's no classification necessary, gender necessary. That's just the society that we live in. We don't like talking about it. We like to pretend that's not the case, but that's the truth. And so I do think that, you know, their response is twofold. One, getting people to be more responsible, and also trying to prevent the continuous transmission of HIV. Yeah. All right, so remember that pilot project starts July 1st, and you can contact BFLA, Matron Roberts, or the Ministry of Health to find out whether or not you qualify or whether it's right for you. But let's go ahead and close things off for today. If you'd like to contact us, send us an email at oye@channel5belize.com. You can also find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ and on Instagram at OYEBelize. Remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
Start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your hearts open.
We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.